Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dustytron channel, and today I'm going to be revealing my predictions for the 2025 NFL postseason. And just as a reminder, this is how I believe the divisions will play out this year. If you want to hear all of my in-depth analysis about it, be sure to listen to all of the NFL division previews I've posted on my channel. But yeah, postseason is the most awesome time of the NFL season, so let's start talking about my predictions there. And as a note, I will be basing my postseason rankings and predictions based on the team seedings in their own divisions that I predicted in my division previews. All right, starting off in the NFC, getting the number one seed, it's the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think, as I mentioned in my previews, I think they're just the best team on paper, and it's kind of hard to argue that. So I've got them at number one. I know there's probably a little bit of Super Bowl recency bias in that, but they kept a lot of their pieces and improved in some areas too. So I think that they are still a top team in the conference. At number two, I've got my dark horse Rams team. I really like this Rams team. I like the momentum they had at the end of the last season, and I think they're going to continue it into this year and have a really good run in the NFC and get that second seed. The Lions at number three, I'm predicting a bit of a regression for them here, but they'll still be a really good team, and they'll be able to get into that third spot and they win the NFC North. And at the fourth seed, it's the Bucks. I think they've got a really great offense, a lot of firepower there, but I'm just not really convinced about that defense. And to me, the NFC South is just the weakest division. Therefore, the division winner there, for me, gets the lowest seed. And by lowest seed, I mean the lowest seed of the division winners, not the lowest seed overall. All right, moving on to wild card teams. At the top wild card spot in the fifth seed, I have the Washington Commanders. Being realistic, the Commanders aren't going to overtake the Eagles for the division, so probably the fifth seed is the best they're going to get. And of the wildcard teams, I do think they are the best. Going on to the next team, I've got the Minnesota Vikings. I think that they're going to be one of the better teams in the NFC, just with if they're it is dependent on if JJ McCarthy can come in and play up to the level of Sam Darnold, but I believe in the elite talent that he has around him, and he just has to be serviceable in that offense. And I've got them at the second wild card, number 6 overall seed in the NFC. And then I was kind of going back and forth on this one, but I think the Packers have enough talent. I've got the Packers at the 7th seed, squeaking into the playoffs once again. So my playoff field is the same as what happened last year, but I kind of feel like that's how it's going to play out. Maybe on the fringe, you could have Seattle, you could have Atlanta, maybe San Francisco, but I'm not big on San Francisco this year. So those are the teams I have for the NFC. I'd like to remind you that if you're liking this video, give it a big thumbs up, like it, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content. And be sure to follow the social media links linked in the description below. All right, over on the AFC, I've got the Ravens securing the number 1 seed. They've got a lot of talent there. They're really good during the regular season. Derrick Henry will probably pick up where he left off last year. Lamar Jackson didn't win MVP last year, but has in the past twice. He's just a really dynamic player, and I think that they can do really well in the regular season and get that number 1 seed. The number 2 seed, it's the team right behind them, the Buffalo Bills. They've got a lot of talent too. But do I think that they're better than the Ravens? Not quite. And I'm still a little torn because I do feel like they're starting to miss their window a little bit, but they kind of proved me wrong last year because I thought last year was going to be a regression for them. And now I kind of think as long as Josh Allen is there, they're going to be competitive. At the third spot, I see the Chiefs regressing a bit, but they still win their division, but they don't get the top seed. They're the 3rd seed in my playoff predictions for this year. And then at the 4th seed, AFC South, Texans will win that division, but they're not going to be great. They have the 4th seed and the lowest of the division winners. For the wild cards in the AFC, I've got the Chargers as the top wild card and the 5th overall seed. I think that Jim Harbaugh's system that he's instilling, Justin Herbert's not going to have as much expected of him. create that dominant run game with Omari and Hampton and that really strong offensive line. And then you've got a really great defense on the other side of the ball. But I don't see them getting past the Chiefs. I have them as the top wild card. And then at number 6, the defense is going to hold them back a little bit, but I think the Bengals offense finally pushes them into the playoffs this year after missing the last 2 years. They're a dangerous team if they get into the playoffs. I don't think they're going to get past Baltimore for the division, but I think this year they do get into the postseason as the second wild card, 6th overall. And then I like what the Broncos are doing. I've got them squeaking into that 7th seed, the lowest seed of the wild cards. That defense is one of the best young defenses in the league, and I like what Sean Payton and that offense starting to get things clicking with Bo Nix. So I think they're going to go in the playoffs again. And if you look at my field, this is similar to last year, but I do have the Bengals getting in instead of the Steelers. All right, so now for the fun part, what does that give us for matchups? Starting in the NFC, you've got the Packers going to LA to face the Rams. You've got the Minnesota Vikings going to Detroit to face the Lions, and the Washington Commanders going up against the Tampa Bay Bucks in Tampa Bay, and the Eagles get the bye. And over on the AFC, you've got the Broncos going into Buffalo trying to avenge their loss in the wild card last year. You've got the Bengals going up against the Chiefs at Arrowhead. It's always a great matchup between those two teams. And then you've got the Chargers going to Houston yet again, hoping to make up for that terrible playoff game they had last year. And then the Ravens get the bye. So now talking through my predictions, I've got the Rams beating the Packers. Packers kind of just getting in, and I'm really high on the Rams. I think that they're going to win that game if that was the matchup. The Lions seem to have the Vikings number in clutch situations, so the Lions I've got winning that one. And then I think the Commanders are able to pull off the victory against the Bucks. I'm a little 50-50 on this one, but I do have the Commanders winning that. Now for the AFC wildcard, I've got the Bills taking down the Broncos again. Broncos are not able to avenge that. Good riddance, Broncos. And then I think the important one that's really going to shake up how the AFC plays out in this prediction here is I've got the Bengals taking down the Chiefs in the wild card. Bengals are one of the few teams that can take the Chiefs down. I have them doing it, and they're going to advance on to the divisional, and the Chiefs, trying to get to their 4th straight Super Bowl, get out in the wild card. And then I've got the Chargers avenging their loss last year against the Texans. So for the NFC Divisional, that gives us the Washington Commanders going up against the Philadelphia Eagles and the Detroit Lions going up against the LA Rams. And in the AFC Divisional round, you've got the Los Angeles Chargers going up against the Bills, and you've got the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to Baltimore to take on the division rival Ravens. For the NFC Divisional, the Stafford Lions rematch, I think Stafford comes out on top on this one. He's at home, and they had a tough game 2 years ago where they weren't able to come out on top. Rams come out on top this time and get to the NFC Championship game. And Commanders-Eagles, the Commanders' defense is still suspicious. I think the Eagles have too much firepower there. I think the Eagles steamroll them again and get back to the NFC Championship game. All right, and for the AFC Divisional, I've got the Bills taking down the Chargers. And when it comes to this Bengals-Ravens divisional rivalry, it's always a hard-fought game, but I think that the Bengals defense is not going to be able to do enough to contain the Ravens offense. I've got the Ravens going to the AFC Championship game, hosting the Bills. All right, the NFC Championship game. It's the Philadelphia Eagles hosting the Los Angeles Rams. It's going to be a really hard-fought game, just like it was in the divisional a year ago. I think the Eagles come out on top again. It's going to be a tough environment to play in January in Philadelphia. I think that the Eagles are going to come out on top and get to their 2nd straight Super Bowl. And in the AFC, it's the Ravens hosting the Bills. I feel like this is the championship game that everybody wants, where these are the two teams that are always vying to be better than the Chiefs. We finally get them head to head. We had them in the divisional last year. This year we'll get it in the AFC championship. And I think Baltimore makes up for all the mistakes they had in the game in the divisional last year, and they're able to get to the Super Bowl. All right, here it is, Super Bowl 60. It's the Philadelphia Eagles against the Baltimore Ravens, and I think that this is a phenomenal matchup. It would be a phenomenal game if we got this. And I think it's kind of a coin flip. There's just part of me that feels like, are the Philadelphia Eagles really two-peat material? I'm not sure, but then again, they've also been if they do this, it'll be their third Super Bowl in 4 years. So they're starting to build that championship caliber culture around them. So maybe they can pull off the two-peat. But looking at this right now, I really am more drawn towards thinking that the Baltimore Ravens will pull it off. Lamar Jackson finally got over the hump, finally got himself to the Super Bowl. He's going to take it all the way and get his first Lombardi trophy. The Baltimore Ravens are your 2025-2026 NFL champion. But hey, those are my thoughts based on my opinions about how the divisions are going to play out throughout the year. And when it comes down to the seeding, I was looking at how these standings worked out in the playoffs. And really, it kind of depended on which team played where. Because I feel like if the Chiefs can get past the Bengals, they could make another run. So really, the seeding of the team matters a lot with how this bracket could play out. So what do you think of my thoughts? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. And watch, when the playoffs roll around, my bracket could be totally off. I know I'm a little recency biased with how the teams fared last year, and I don't have a lot of playoff turnover, and I know there is a stat where I think it's about 5 teams who made the playoffs the previous year don't make it the next year, but I still have my bracket where it's at right now. But yeah, when the postseason rolls around, it could be completely off. But we're getting closer and closer to the NFL season starting. I'm getting really excited. I've got my playoff predictions in place, all of my divisional previews in place. You can see them all on the channel now. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time on the Dustytron channel.